I noticed her before she even spoke. Something about the way she stood at the edge of the hallway, arms folded loosely, like she was trying to seem relaxed but hadn't quite figured out where to put her hands. The late afternoon light slid across her face, softening the small crease near her mouth, the one she tried not to show when she smiled. I should have said hello first. Instead, she caught me staring. "You came faster than I expected," she said. Her voice carried that calm tone she used when she wanted to keep things simple. Then she looked away, too late to hide whatever flickered in her expression. I stepped closer. Not enough to crowd her, just enough for the air between us to shift. Warmth rose from the floor vents and curled around us. The house felt too quiet for two people who barely knew how to act around each other. "Traffic was light," I said. It was the only thing my mouth managed. She nodded, brushing her hair behind her ear in a motion that seemed practiced, almost automatic. Still, her fingers trembled the tiniest bit. If she noticed, she hid it well. Her name was Elise. I had heard it for years, said in stories, family updates, and the kinds of conversations that happen when people assume you're not listening. I never imagined meeting her would feel like this, like the moment had been waiting somewhere in the background and finally stepped forward. "You can come in," she said, backing up a single step. Her perfume lingered in the space she left behind, a warm, steady scent that made it harder to look anywhere but at her. I followed her into the living room. She moved with this quiet grace, like she calculated every step yet still managed to seem effortless. She wasn't trying to impress me. That somehow impressed me more. "Sorry the place is a mess," she said, although it wasn't messy at all. A half-folded throw blanket sat on the couch, a mug on the table, a few papers stacked crookedly. It looked lived in, not messy. "It's fine," I said. "Feels real." She gave a short laugh. Not loud, but the kind that lifted her shoulders for a second. Her eyes stayed on the mug, fingers resting on its rim. She didn't answer right away, as if deciding how much to let me see. I stepped closer to the couch and reached for the mug. "Want me to take this to the sink?" She blinked, surprised, then released it. "You don't have to do that." "I know." Her hand brushed mine as she let go. A light touch. Barely anything. But contact has a way of lighting up the parts of you thought were quiet. She pulled her hand back quickly, almost too quickly, then folded her arms again like she was putting them somewhere safe. "You look different from your pictures," she said. "You seem taller." "People keep saying that." Another small laugh. Another pause that felt thick enough to touch. The room stayed warm, a little too warm. She opened a window just an inch, like she was trying to break the tension without admitting it existed. "So," she said. "You made it." I did. Our eyes held longer than they should have. Long enough that something unspoken pushed to the surface, then retreated before either of us could name it. Then the front door latch clicked. A sudden, sharp sound that cut through the room. She stiffened. Someone was arriving. She didn't look at me this time. She just whispered, almost without breath, "Stay here, please." And before I could answer, the door creaked open, the door closed somewhere down the hall, followed by footsteps moving away instead of toward us. Elise let out a breath she had clearly been holding, the kind that tightens the shoulders before it leaves. "Just my neighbor," she said. She tried to make it sound casual, but her voice carried a thin edge. "He lets himself into the wrong unit sometimes. Mix up with the locks." I nodded, though the explanation felt rehearsed. Not dishonest, just something she'd had to say before. She walked past me to straighten the already straight blanket, hands lingering on the fabric a beat too long. I stayed near the window, unsure if I should move or stay still. We were both acting like any shift in distance could set off some alarm neither of us wanted to acknowledge. "You okay?" I asked. She hesitated, then shrugged one shoulder. "Long week. Longer month." Her fingers kept smoothing the same corner of the blanket. I'm out of practice with company. The way she said it wasn't sad, but it wasn't nothing. I found myself stepping closer without meaning to, drawn by the small weight in her voice. My last relationship ended years ago, she said quietly. If you can even call it that. He traveled a lot. Or said he did. She met my eyes, briefly. It's easy to get used to being alone when you're the only one trying. I didn't know what to say at first. Admitting something like that wasn't small. People assume you're fine, she went on, softer now. Especially at my age. They think you've got everything sorted. She gave a small, crooked smile. I don't. I wanted to reach for her. I didn't. She stepped past me toward the kitchen. What about you? I followed her voice. Me? I haven't really been in anything serious. That surprises me, she said, opening a cabinet. You seem steady. I don't feel steady. She closed the cabinet and leaned on the counter, looking at me longer than before. It wasn't a searching look. More like she was trying to understand why she felt comfortable talking to me at all. The age gap hung there, unspoken but fully present. It colored everything, the way she kept a polite distance, the way I pretended not to notice how her sweater slipped off one shoulder, the way neither of us dared sit too close on the couch, even though the space begged for it. She pushed a glass of water toward me. Here. Her fingers brushed mine again. Not an accident this time. Not entirely intentional either. More like she forgot to pull back quickly enough. I'm glad you came, she said. Quiet. Almost defensive, like she regretted the words as soon as they left her mouth. I swallowed. Me too. She looked away, but her hand stayed on the counter near mine, close enough that I felt the warmth radiating off her skin. She wasn't touching me, not really, yet the nearness felt louder than any words. For a moment, neither of us moved. The house hummed with distant pipes, the kind of sound you only notice when everything else goes still. Then she shifted, just slightly, and her shoulder brushed my arm. A small contact. Barely anything. But she didn't step away. And that tiny choice hung between us, steady and real, pulling us closer without either of us saying a single word. Later that evening, the house settled into a quieter version of itself. The kind where every sound seemed closer. I sat at the edge of the couch, pretending to look at the framed photos on the shelf while Elise checked her phone near the kitchen doorway. She held it too tightly, thumb hovering but not tapping. A buzz broke the stillness. She flinched. Everything okay? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Her shoulders stiffened, then eased. My sister, she said. She's checking in. I nodded, though her tone made it clear it was more than a simple check-in. She set the phone face down on the counter, almost like she didn't trust herself to look again. She didn't know I invited you, she added. She thinks it's complicated. The word hung there. Complicated. Heavy enough to shift the space between us again. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. Do you think it's complicated? Her eyes flicked to mine, then away. I think people like simple stories. And this isn't simple. She paused. You aren't simple. Her voice softened at the end, as if she'd said more than she meant to. Before I could reply, a knock rattled the front door. Sharp. Sudden. Too close to interrupting something we hadn't even dared start. Elisa's breath caught. Stay here. She walked to the door, smoothing her sweater as if that would settle the tension in her face. Through the crack, a woman's voice spilled in. Elise? Are you home? The lights are on. Her sister. Elise panicked for half a second. I saw it in the way her hand froze on the doorknob. She raised her voice just enough. I'm fine. Just tired. Can we talk tomorrow? A pause. A long one. Then footsteps retreating down the hall. When she closed the door, she leaned against it like she needed it to hold her up. "I'm sorry," she murmured, eyes locked on the floor. "She shows up when she thinks I'm making questionable choices." I stood without thinking. Being here is a questionable choice. Her lips parted. Not to deny it. Not to confirm it. Just caught between the two. "I don't know what this is yet," she said. But she wouldn't understand. I stepped closer. She didn't move. Not forward, not backward. She stayed pressed against the door, as if it anchored her. The space between us shrank to a breath. Her hand lifted like she might touch my chest, then hovered halfway, unsure. Her fingers curled slightly, then relaxed. A silent tug-of-war inside her. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she whispered. "I'm not sure how else to look at you." Her laugh was barely sound. More a breath escaping. She tilted her head up, eyes meeting mine for one long, uneven heartbeat. We stood too close. Too aware. Her shoulder grazed me whenever she exhaled. My hand drifted up, not quite touching her waist, but close enough that she felt the intention. Her gaze dropped to my mouth for a fraction of a second. A tiny, fragile surrender. I leaned in, slow, careful. She didn't pull away. Not until the moment right before our lips would have met, when she inhaled sharply and turned her face just enough that my breath touched her cheek instead. "Not yet," she whispered. But she didn't step back. And I didn't move away. We stayed there, caught in a quiet that pulled us together even as she tried, unsuccessfully, to keep the line between us intact. The rest of the evening moved in uneven beats, like neither of us trusted our own footsteps. Elise tried to busy herself with cleaning a counter that didn't need cleaning. I pretended to scroll my phone without really reading anything. The tension sat between us like a warm light left on by accident. When she finally spoke, her voice startled both of us. "This is getting hard," she said. I lifted my head. "What is?" She wiped her hands on a towel, though they weren't wet. "Pretending I don't feel anything. Or that I shouldn't." Her back stayed turned, but her shoulders betrayed her. A small rise, a shaky fall. I moved toward her slowly, giving her time to stop me if she wanted. She didn't. "Elise," I said quietly. She squeezed the towel, wringing it like it held the answer. "I keep telling myself you're too young. That people would talk. That maybe I'm reading everything wrong." Her breath caught. "But then you stand near me and I forget every sensible thing I told myself." I stood close enough to feel the warmth radiating off her. My hand paused beside her hip, not touching yet, waiting. "You're not reading it wrong," I said. She laughed once, unsteady. "You say that like it's easy." "It isn't." I swallowed. "But I'm not imagining this." She closed her eyes, and the towel slipped from her fingers. When it hit the floor, she flinched, not from the sound, but from whatever was happening inside her. I reached up, slowly, and brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. My fingertips grazed her jaw, light as breath. She inhaled sharply, almost like a confession. "This is the part," she whispered, "where someone gets hurt. Only if we walk away." She turned to face me, finally. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes bright in a way I hadn't seen before. She stepped forward until her chest nearly touched mine. "Not fully. Just the promise of contact." "Do you have any idea what you're doing to me?" she asked. The question wasn't angry. It wasn't gentle either. It sounded like something she had held back for too long. I leaned down, my forehead almost touching hers. "Probably the same thing you're doing to me." Her breath fanned across my mouth. Warm. Unsteady. She didn't hide how it shook her. "Say it," she murmured. If you're going to complicate my life like this, say something real. I want you, I said. No hesitation. No apology. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She lifted her hand and rested it on my chest, fingers splayed like she needed something solid. I felt the tremor in her touch. Then she leaned into me, not a kiss, not yet, but her forehead pressed to mine, her hand gripping my shirt. I shouldn't, she whispered. But you are. She nodded, tiny, helpless, her breath brushing my upper lip. The moment tightened around us until it nearly broke. Just as her hand slid up my chest, as her mouth tilted toward mine with no more doubt left in her eyes, a phone rang in the other room. Sharp. Loud. Out of place. She froze. I didn't move. Her lips hovered a breath from mine. And everything hung on whether she would step back, or finally close the distance. The phone stopped ringing, but the damage was already done. Elise stepped back an inch, then another, her breath still uneven. She pressed her hand to her mouth as if trying to erase the moment we almost crossed. I should, check that, she said. She didn't move. Her fingers trembled where they rested against her lips. Finally she turned and walked toward the bedroom, shoulders tight, paced too fast to look natural. I followed a few steps behind but stopped at the doorway. She picked up the phone from her dresser, stared at the screen, and let her arm fall to her side. It was her, she said. My sister. I nodded, unsure why she looked shaken. She lifted the phone and showed me the message. The screen lit her face in a pale glow. I know he's there. You can't hide this from me. A cold rush went through both of us at the same time. Elisa's throat bobbed with a hard swallow. She set the phone down, slower this time, like placing something fragile. She must have stayed in the hallway after she knocked, Elise whispered. She probably heard us. I stepped inside the room before I thought twice. Heard what? Her eyes flicked to mine, full of something rawer than fear. The way we talk. The way we stand too close. Everything. She ran her hands through her hair, pacing once, then twice. Each turn brushed her shoulder close to mine. A light touch, but enough to send another pulse through me. Elise, I said gently. But she kept moving, like if she stopped she'd have to face whatever this changed. My sister thinks I'm falling into old patterns, she said. Risky decisions. People too young for me. Excuses I make to myself. She paused, breath hitching. I told her she was wrong. Her voice cracked at the end, so quiet I almost missed it. I stepped in front of her, blocking her path. She stilled. Her hands hovered in the air like she wasn't sure where to place them. Are you making excuses? I asked. She let out a shaky laugh. I don't even know what I'm doing. Part of me, she stopped, teeth catching her lower lip. Part of me wants you here. And part of me knows how fast this could break. She brushed past me again, but this time her arm grazed mine on purpose. Testing. Or maybe surrendering. I turned to follow her. You didn't answer the question. She faced me slowly. Too slowly. If I answer it, I can't take it back. I stepped closer. Not touching, but close enough she felt cornered by honesty alone. Her breath hitched again. Elise, I said, voice low. I'm not some mistake you need to explain away. Her eyes softened, then shuddered, then softened again. Conflict rippled through her shoulders. She looked like someone standing at the edge of a truth she'd avoided for far too long. My last relationship, she said, voice barely above a whisper, ended because I wanted more than he did. I kept hoping he'd choose me fully. He never did. Her gaze locked onto mine. And now you're here, and I feel everything I tried to shut down. She stepped forward, just one step, but it erased every inch of distance. I'm scared you'll want me now, she whispered, and regret it later. The honesty hit deeper than anything else so far. My hand lifted, instinctive, and brushed her arm. She didn't pull away. In fact, she leaned in, barely, but enough to tell the truth her words couldn't. "Elise," I said, softer than before, "I won't regret you." Silence thickened. Her eyes glimmered. She tilted her head up the smallest degree, breath touching my chin. One more move and everything would change. Just then, her phone buzzed again. She didn't look at it this time. Instead, she whispered, "I need to decide whether to open that door, or ignore it." Her hand found mine and held tight. And in that moment, every path narrowed into one. Elise didn't reach for the phone. Didn't even glance at it. The buzzing finally stopped, leaving the room too quiet, like the house itself was waiting to see what she'd do. Her hand stayed wrapped around mine, warm and tight, like she was afraid I'd slip away if she loosened her grip even a little. She took one step closer. Then another. By the time she stopped, her forehead nearly brushed my chin. "Whatever I choose," she whispered, "I can't take it back." Her voice shook. Not from fear alone. Something deeper. Something she'd been trying to hold down for years. "Then choose what's real," I said. She exhaled shakily. Her free hand lifted, hovered near my collarbone, then lowered again like she didn't trust herself to touch me. "You don't understand." She looked up at me, eyes raw. "I spent so long convincing myself I didn't need anyone. That I was fine with dinners alone, and empty beds, and birthdays where no one stayed long enough to finish dessert." Her throat tightened. "Then you walked in and the whole house feels different." I moved closer, slow, giving her every chance to step back. She didn't. Her breath brushed my neck. Her shoulders softened, then tensed again, caught between desire and caution. "Elise," I murmured. "Look at me." She did. It was a small, trembling shift of her chin, but when her eyes met mine, something broke open between us. All the hesitation, all the guilt, all the questions dissolved into a single moment where everything felt painfully, beautifully simple. "I'm tired of being scared," she said quietly. Her fingers lifted again. This time, they touched my jaw. Light. Testing. Her thumb traced a small, uncertain line near the corner of my mouth. The contact hit harder than anything so far. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "You can still tell me to leave," I whispered. "I don't want you to." Her hand moved to the back of my neck, slow and tentative, like she was discovering parts of herself she'd locked away. I leaned into her touch without thinking. Her body pressed against mine, not fully, just enough that I felt the warmth of her through the thin space that still separated us. She closed her eyes for a moment, and her forehead rested against my chest, right over my heartbeat. "This feels too good to be wrong," she murmured. "It isn't wrong." She lifted her head at that, searching my face for any trace of doubt. There wasn't any. I stepped closer until our noses almost touched. Her breath hitched, and she steadied herself by gripping my shirt. "If I let this happen," she whispered, "you can't disappear on me." "I won't," I said. "I'm here." Her eyes softened, the last wall crumbling. She tilted her face up, lips parting slightly, her breath warm on mine. Her fingers curled into the fabric near my chest. This was it. No more hiding. No more pretending distance kept us safe. She leaned in. I met her halfway. Our lips hovered, barely touching, not even a full kiss yet, just the softest brush, warm and trembling, the kind that says everything before the real moment even arrives. A promise. A surrender. A truth neither of us could deny anymore. When she finally whispered, "Don't stop," it wasn't hesitation. It was clarity. And for the first time between us, nothing was confusing at all, the kiss didn't rush in. It unfolded slowly, almost shy, like we were afraid that moving too fast would break whatever fragile truth we had finally reached. Elisa's lips brushed mine again, this time with intention, soft and warm. She lingered there, breathing me in, almost leaning her whole weight forward before she stopped herself. When she pulled back, it wasn't far. Just enough for our noses to brush, her forehead resting against mine. Her breath carried a faint tremor, but her eyes looked steadier than at any point since I arrived. "Okay," she whispered. "I can live with this." I smiled. "With me?" She gave this tiny laugh, almost embarrassed. "Yes. With you. With us. With whatever this is." Her hand moved from my chest to my neck, settling there like she finally trusted the closeness. "I don't want to fight it anymore." We didn't move for a while. The room stayed warm, quiet, dim except for the soft glow of a lamp in the corner. Her fingers traced the edge of my jaw, slow and thoughtful, like she was learning me by touch instead of words. "I kept thinking the world would judge me," she said, voice low, "for wanting something that makes me feel alive again. And now?" I asked. She shrugged a little, her shoulder brushing mine. "Now I just want the truth." "And the truth is," her eyes softened, warm and sure, "I feel safe with you." I slipped my hand into hers. She let our fingers interlace without hesitation, gripping me like she didn't want to risk losing the moment. She leaned into my chest, head resting near my collarbone. I wrapped an arm around her, tentative at first, then fully as she melted into the contact. We stood like that, swaying slightly, as if the whole night had been building to this quiet, grounded closeness. No more interruptions. No more steps backward. Just her against me, relaxed for the first time. After a long silence, she tilted her head up and placed a soft kiss on my chin. Not rushed. Not unsure. Just gentle, warm, and real. "I'm choosing this," she said. "Not because I'm lonely. Not because you showed up at the right time. But because, when you look at me the way you do, I remember I'm not done living." I brushed a strand of hair from her face, letting my fingers linger near her temple. She leaned into the touch, eyes half closed. "You're not done," I said. "You're just getting started." She laughed quietly and nudged her forehead against mine. "You make it sound dramatic." "Maybe it is." She squeezed my hand again, tighter this time, grounding herself. Then she guided me toward the couch, sitting close enough that our legs touched from knee to ankle. She rested her head on my shoulder, fingers still locked with mine. "You're staying for a while," she murmured, not asking. "I'm not going anywhere." Her shoulders eased. She let out a long breath, the kind that comes after years of holding one in. For the first time that night, everything felt simple. Her hand in mine. My arm around her. Her head tucked against me. The house no longer tense, no longer waiting for the other shoe to drop. Just warmth. Quiet closeness. A moment we weren't hiding from. A moment that felt like a beginning. She lifted her head slightly, kissed my cheek once, then rested back against me. "Good," she whispered. "Then let's see where this goes." And just like that, the story between us wasn't a secret, or a fear, or a risk. It was ours. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?